Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur, and though you might be watching this delayed, keep in mind this was a live stream when it was first recorded, so any pauses or interactions with people you don't see, that's why it is. But I'm going to try to keep it as on topic as possible. The only reason I'm not doing this as a pre-recorded video is because I actually do welcome some of the discussion, which I believe could help with this topic at hand. Now then, because this is also a live video, I do want to show off one thing to give people time to come into the discussion and into the video and hopefully not miss too much. So just to brag while we're waiting a moment, look what I found. Like, yeah. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to playing this whenever I finish Super Mario Odyssey. I keep wanting to say Sunshine, but it's Odyssey. So, there you have it. So, anyway, now that we've been a minute into the video, and there's at least a dozen people watching now, let's get to the topic at hand, I should say. And that is the New Year's Eve surge in prime time. And I feel compelled to discuss this just a little bit because there's a couple points that have been brought up a few times in my other videos and in other videos and in Facebook groups. You've probably seen them yourself, where people actually say, are these numbers real? Did you actually make this much money on New Year's Eve? Because I drove for 8 hours and I didn't do any better than most other people. And you know, I'm sorry to say that, yes, there will be situations like that. In fact, last New Year's Eve was such a situation for me. I made just a little over $300, which is not bad. Keep in mind it's not bad, but is that substantially better than a average, Saturday night? No, it's not. So I acknowledge that. This year, I did so much better than last year. And then the year before last year, I did better than these 2 years. Largely because of a huge surge that was a long distance that definitely helped. So let's talk a little about the New Year's Eve surge, what it is, and, how do you get it? How do you get these big numbers? Is there a way to strategize for it? And the answer is yes and no. The answer is yes, because if you do this long enough, you know where the big New Year's Eve parties are being held. You know where there's going to be a lot of people. You know where there's going to be a lot of demand. Every New Year's Eve, I have started near Disneyland. And I've always started near Disneyland because Disneyland just tends to have a lot of surge anyway. And you know what? It flares up like a Christmas tree 5 minutes after the fireworks go off. So usually 12:10, it starts getting really big, whether it's Uber or Lyft. I always use Uber, full disclosure, when it comes to Disneyland. And most of the people there are not drunk. They just want to get home. And most of them are going a fair distance because you can't always get in the Disneyland Hotel on New Year's Eve. Believe me, I used to work there. It's not something that's super common. Now, some people don't have the luxury of being near Disneyland, and I understand that. I'm not saying you have to go to Disneyland for the big surge on New Year's Eve. I'm just saying there's situations and places like that in most areas where you can find the busy places where you know there's going to be a lot of people. Now, that said, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna get long distances, because here's the thing. Even with a big surge, you could still get stuck with a lot of short trips. And short trips can definitely hurt you. Like, for example, the very first year I did New Year's Eve, my first surge was an 8.9. I've never had a surge as high. And I picked them up, and they wanted to go less than 2 miles. Now, that 8.9 surge netted me like $52.33. I remember it very clearly. You don't forget something like that. And that's pretty good for 2 miles. That's very good for 2 miles. But had it been 20 miles, well, that's a different color. Also, that very first year, I got like a trip from Anaheim to Pasadena, which was well over an hour, on a 4.4 surge. Keep in mind, rates were higher back then by about double. But I made like $323 on that ride. So, yeah, that helped a lot. But you know what? Anyone could have gotten that long trip. I just happened to get lucky and had happened to have made a couple $100 already. And then that same night, I got another long ride that was, I believe it was a 2.8 surge, 30 minutes. Got all the way to the house. They realized they had left their keys behind, so we turned around, went back, they got their keys, and we drove right back out to their house. And that netted a couple $100. So that was a year that everything came together perfectly to result in a $800 plus night. But those trips aren't very common even in the best of times. So New Year's only got as high as 1.4 here in Texas. Well, and that's the other thing. Some places might not surge as much. Now, I can't exactly tell you if your area did not surge. I can't tell you why it didn't surge. Maybe it's not so popular. But here's another reason. Because surge has taken a dip here. And surge used to happen all the time. And the reason surge takes a dip now is because of upfront pricing. I don't think it's any coincidence that the best New Year's Eve that most drivers had were during years where there was no upfront pricing, when there was no one to tell the passengers how much they were paying for the ride up front. They put a multiplier, and yeah, it's basic math, but when you're drunk and having fun, you don't think about those things. And so you got tons of stories after the day after New Year's. Sorry, my eyes are itching. And those passengers would say, we woke up to find out we owed $700 on our Uber. How did that happen? And it's pretty simple. It's like, well, you were paying $2 a mile, and there was a 7 times multiplier. So multiply 2 by 7, and how many miles? And, that's how you wound up at $700. But that creates so much bad publicity to the point where, even though I don't think that would have hurt Uber to just let that go, honestly, because if they had kept the multiplier, people still would have used it. They still would have used it. But Uber wanted to get rid of the bad publicity, and of course, with the upfront pricing, they could charge more for every ride throughout the whole year, not just 1 year. But that does have an effect on the drivers, and so I believe there are several long trips on New Year's Eve that I might have gotten on a high surge otherwise had this upfront pricing not been there. And if it's affecting me, I'm sure it's affecting any of you who might be in slightly smaller cities than I am. So here's the thing. The high surge rates that people talk about, and I've seen some people in the discussion are talking about how it was like 650% or 700%. Was it 600? 650%, and yeah, one person did $700 on New Year's with Uber XL. Yeah, that's great. That is absolutely great. It's fantastic. They do exist. They do exist. Just because you didn't experience them doesn't mean they don't exist. And here's the other thing you have to keep in mind. It's not just the strategy of the location. It's not only going to where the surge is probably going to be. It's not only going where people are about to migrate. There's a little bit of luck involved. Because if you get a super high surge, like let's say you get 600% prime time or 7.4 high surge, yes, that ride will pay well regardless where you go. But let's say the ride's a 10-minute or less ride and it's only going 3 miles. Now, granted, you will get paid very well for those 3 miles and that 10 minutes of time. You'll get paid way more than you would for most jobs you will work. But here's the problem. It's not going to be livable. Like, I'm going to estimate that a 600% 3-mile ride is like somewhere between $30 and $45. which is nice. Don't get me wrong, it's nice, but that's not exactly a living wage. That's not exactly a living wage. You'd be much happier if that was 10 miles or more. But you can't control that. You just can't control that. And by the time you drop them off, the surge may have decreased significantly or it might have moved. And you can't control that either. There is a certain level of luck, or as some of you may prefer, being blessed, which, you know what? Yeah, that is a good angle to look at it. I consider the money I made Sunday night to be a blessing, personally, because, you know what? It worked out really well for me, but it could just as easily have not worked out well. And that's where a little bit of, I think the bitterness comes in, because I have a friend who did Lyft on New Year's Eve. He'd heard about people making all this money, and he decided he was going to go out and make some primetime money. And he only made about $100 for like 5 hours of time. And that's very, very bad. That is very, very bad. And I felt very sorry for him. By the same token, he also made some mistakes in doing this. He chased the surge, which you never want to do. Don't chase the surge. I mean, it's one thing if the surge is a mile away. If it's 20 miles away, don't do it. He did it. He saw that it was surging in LA, and he decided to go to LA and chase the surge. And that was not a wise decision. I mean, granted, the surge was never going to completely disappear because it's LA and it's New Year's Eve. But, you know what? You're spending an hour getting there. That's an hour you're not making money. The surge would have showed up locally at some point. It did for me. And, of course, when you go to some of these areas, they become overpopulated by drivers. And the odds of getting a long trip are not very good in certain cities. Like, for example, I will wind up in LA and Hollywood a lot because people want to go to LA and Hollywood. Now, true, those people who are going to LA and Hollywood, they will probably want to ride back, but the chances of you getting them again are pretty slim. So you wind up in a place that has a lot of drivers, and most of the passengers you do pick up are not going very far. And heck, more often than not, you spend more time getting to them than you spend driving them around. These are the things you have to kind of think about, and so that's why sometimes in large cities, it's good to get out of it. If you're an Uber driver in New York City, for example, I don't know if you're going to make that much money, because even with the high surge and everything, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic. You can't get anywhere easily. Just saying, let's see. One person said, Vegas was pretty amazing with the surge. I have an XL. I made $525, but only one extra long ride, all short rides. And that happens too sometimes. Now, I happen to get a little lucky and a little blessed in a sense, in that Lyft actually got really aggressive in marketing to drivers. And this is another thing I want to talk about, because I definitely get accused of being a fanboy for Lyft a lot, and I'm not. I have made videos criticizing Lyft because Lyft doesn't do nearly as much bad stuff as Uber, in my opinion. That's just how it is. Some people might disagree with me on that. I'm sorry, this is how I see it. Lyft does more good than bad. But I also said in a previous video that it surprised me that Lyft was more profitable this year, because it has always been Uber. Lyft's prime time has typically not been very reliable, even on New Year's Eve. It's been more... Uber surge is way more reliable on busy days, and so I tend to tailor my driving around Uber. But this year, Lyft wanted to change that perception. I believe they did. And they did something that I frankly did not expect them to do. Most of the map had power zones for 150% or more a ride. That means when it wasn't surging on Uber, I could get a guaranteed surge on Lyft, a high guaranteed surge. Now, granted, Uber had their boosts, but they were doing 1.5 boosts. Actually, their 1.5 boost was criminally and offensively low for New Year's Eve. They should have at least been guaranteeing 3.0. Because they know darn well that the surge is going to go much higher than that. But, the trick is, of course, well, when is it going to go? Because you don't want to do it too high of a boost, because that's all coming out of Uber's pocket. Lyft decided they were going to make a calculated risk and pay way out of pocket for their rides, even their short rides. And then, on top of that, they offered streaks. I hadn't seen a streak for months, and then all of a sudden, I'm seeing multiple ones a night, and I took advantage of it. And not only was I getting the 150% prime time for most of these very short rides, I was getting the boost. So I would make an extra $20, extra $16. Apparently someone's Uber Eats had a 3.0 boost. That's nice. Didn't happen here. And, and I'm in the Orange County, Los Angeles area. Like, why the heck? But anyway, so here's the thing. With a 1.5 boost and no surge, of course I'm going to switch to Lyft, which is what they wanted. They wanted me to switch to Lyft. And you know what? It worked. But I will say, after New Year's Eve, after the ball dropped, after the fireworks were over, I looked at the maps and I turned on the Uber app, because the Uber app was surging like crazy. Interestingly, it also crashed because I picked someone up and then both of our apps crashed. We were stuck in a parking lot and I couldn't start the trip and he couldn't do anything. And the only reason I didn't get upset is because we were, again, stuck in the parking and we couldn't really move. So once we got in the street, though, then apparently at that point they fixed it. So that was definitely nice. But yeah, that's why I said Lyft was better for me this year, because for me it worked out better for Lyft. I never thought I'd actually say that, though. I honestly kind of assumed Uber owned New Year's Eve, and this kind of proves that they don't own it. And it means that people should honestly pay attention more, because, and this is why you should have both if possible. You never know which one's going to be the more popular one, which one's going to be paying out the more. You just don't know. And I feel annoyed that I sometimes have to explain that. I don't know. So, maybe I should just, ignore those comments that I'm this fanboy, that I'm that fanboy, because it's no, I think I'm pretty fair, all things considered, but you know what? Yeah, Lyft was better to drive New Year's Eve, at least for me. But then I read online some people did very, very well on Uber, and so, hey, congratulations if you did. Congratulations if you did. I don't really care which service you're using on New Year's Eve, so long as you're making money. I'm always happy to see people making a living for a relatively easy job and on your own terms. That is always nice. So Robin, that's an interesting question. Robin Rosie Marie said, if you were guaranteed a $1,000 bonus by Uber or Lyft on New Year's Day, would you be a driver next year? Have a good morning. Well, I have my own issues with the $1,000 bonuses, which I actually made another video about that. If you want to see that video, you can search my archives. I know it's hectic in there. I post a lot of content, but my thoughts are out there. So anyway, we're going to probably end the live stream there, because this video was not intended to be like a live stream. I will do a discussion live stream at some point, but I do have to prepare I have to make at least 2 videos of my own, and then I'm doing a collaboration video with someone, so you will probably see who that is soon. And I do want to comment on this one thing. So apparently some people have saying DoorDash was offering a $1 bonus, a $6 bonus. Well, here's the thing. I did not do Postmates or DoorDash. You would think that the food delivery would be hopping, but I don't know. It's strange. It's really strange. Food delivery has never been profitable for me on New Year's Eve, and I think it's because most people who are throwing parties, they already bought their food, they already got this, and if they are sending you out for something, they're sending you out for like some cups or something that they forgot. And the bonuses are like a joke. And I mean, even if DoorDash is offering like a $1 or $6 bonus per delivery, they're still taking money out of your delivery fee if you get tipped that they're keeping for themselves. So it's stick with Uber and Lyft on New Year's Eve. If it's still an option next time, who knows? But yeah, we're gonna end that here so I can make those videos and start the New Year right with more content. And the beanie is back. The Santa hat will probably not come back until the day after Thanksgiving again. So as always, thank you guys for watching. For those who did not do the live stream, you can comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you like the content I make, consider becoming a patron or a little $1 a month. I have a feeling this whole Jake Paul, or is it Jake Logan, whatever the heck his name is, the whole Suicide Force video, I have a feeling that's going to be demonetizing YouTubers even further. I think that's Adpocalypse 3.0 coming, so any help is greatly appreciated. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. Live stream over.